I'm a survivor. Uh, I was the middle of three boys, and when I was 5, my mother died. Uh, that sent my father off the deep end. Into alcoholism. He wasn't around much after that. My grandparents moved in to take care of us, and my father did manage to get married soon after, remarried, and but unfortunately his drinking kept going and got worse again. And this second mother, our stepmother, she after 18 months, she figured she had enough and she left. So then we were, hurt by that as well as kids. You know, uh, we had to spend a lot of time at an aunt's house who lived in town, and her husband was a pretty heavy alcoholic. I mean, he was pretty much always drunk when I saw him, and we had to spend a lot of weekends there to give my grandmother a break from caring for us. And this guy, when I was like 7, he started grooming me. I didn't know. What the hell did I know? I was a needy kid, and I, ate up his attention. And then when I was 8, one day he actually went all the way and raped me. And that went on from 8 to 12. But that first day after he raped me, I remember walking home in shame. I mean, right instantly, I mean, I knew this was real wrong. I mean, this was, way wrong. And I had a reason with my 8-year-old brain that I had to keep this a secret. I mean, God, I couldn't let anybody find out about this. If my father found out, he would, kill this uncle, and then we'd really have nobody for parents. Then what would everybody think about me? Sheesh, 8 years old, especially back then. Nobody talked about this stuff. I just reasoned that I would have to keep it a secret, take it to my grave, and plan on trying to hide from him, stay away from him, which was going to be hard to do, being that we had to spend a lot of weekends there sleeping over. So, as you can figure out, that plan didn't work. I would, when we were sleeping at their house, my little brother and my cousin, who was my age, would sleep on the pull-out sofa, and I would barricade myself with the pillows from the sofa underneath. I would sleep on the floor. But this uncle, he worked evenings in a restaurant, and when he came home, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, everybody else in the house would be sleeping, including me, and I'd be awoken by him molesting me. And I remember pretending I was asleep every time. That went on that way from 8 till about 11. That's when puberty started to hit me, at 11, and then that shame and fear and loathing of it, turned into something hideous. I became highly sexualized. I started to go there seeking him out for that abuse. Another thing that happened once the abuse started happening was I started messing around and acting out with my little brother, who was 2.5 years younger than me. It wasn't anything too heavy, but it should have never have happened. Had I not been abused, it would have never have happened. It's not normal. And then, like I said, I was 11. Then I was highly, sexualized. I was going there looking for the abuse. And then this kid who lived just down the street from me, my age, he was kind of an outcast and didn't have any friends. I would talk to him once in a blue moon. We would walk home from school together because he was on my way, and a couple of times he did stop by and we hung out. And this one time he asked, hey, we were 11 years old. He goes, hey, you want to go naked? We were somewhere playing in an empty abandoned house. And I said, sure. He got a lot more than he bargained for. I introduced, straight up sex with him right then and there, and that went on with him for years, for years, and it's something that brings me a lot of guilt and shame for involving him in all my brokenness. Again, because had I not been abused, his innocent, hey, you want to go naked, like, typical kid show and tell type stuff, it just would have been that, and that's it. But it went on for years where, I used him. I was not a friend. I didn't see him as a friend. He was somebody you'd be ashamed to be seen with, and to my own shame, to add to my shame, that I took advantage of his friendship, and I know what we did added to his burden in life. That it might have changed the course of his life. I did find him, but anyway, when I was 31, it's going back about 18 years ago, this all came to a head in me. It was eating me alive, literally. And I finally had to let the secret out. What happened was I was trolling one day for porn and erotic stories online, and I came across this male survivor's personal website and read his story, and I was totally blown away because his story was exactly mine. I felt everything he felt. I was afraid and driven by the same things that was driving him, and it was totally mind-blowing for me. And I had to come to terms with the fact that, hey, I was a victim, that this happened to me. I always knew the sexual abuse had a major thing to do with my acting out with other guys. I wasn't gay. I never wanted to marry a man or wear a dress, that type of thing. I knew what gay was, even as a little kid. I had, a gay uncle, and I knew I always wanted a family, the perfect family I never had as a kid. I always wanted that. I knew I would never get that, being gay. So I always knew that wasn't my thing, but still I had this uncontrollable drive that would just take over and drive me to do these things with as a kid with this other boy, and then later as an adult with other random men. Just it was never about love, honoring or cherishing. It was always about being dirty. It was secretive. It was about me trying to build up my broken masculinity and control issues on the souls of these other poor guys, and that's what I was trying to regain or gain. A big part of this with that acting out drive was all the masculinity issues of not having a father who, as a young boy, who should have been there to pay attention, bring us boys into the fold of proper masculinity with love, attention, proper affection, affirmation, that build up to make a solid young man. You need that firm foundation. Without it, it leaves a young boy feeling needy for it. You really do. Because without it, you see all the other boys that are self-confident and, they seem to have it all, their world seems right, and you're feeling lost and like an outsider looking in. You can tend to envy. It leaves you vulnerable to envy these other kids, and that can leave you vulnerable to being groomed by some manipulator or an abuser, and that can happen. It can leave you vulnerable to getting confused around puberty with all the hormonal changes and all that stuff going on in your brain, to where you can start a same-sex attraction, or start thinking you're gay. And once you start acting on these things, and you make the connections sexually to the needs in your head, whether they're should have been there or shouldn't have been there. It's kind of hard to break those connections. Even like with me, with acting out, knowing what I know now, that all those basic needs that went unmet as a young boy, and the wrong stuff that filled them took their place. It still was hard to break those connections and that drive to act out. I mean, I had triggers that I wasn't aware of. I mean, if I had some kind of failure, whether real or perceived, I mean, if I saw somebody else who was doing so much better than me, and had everything that I thought he had and that I didn't, I was lacking, I mean, that would start my mind going somewhere in the back that, hey, I need to, get over on somebody. I need to build myself up. I mean, I'm feeling less than a man, and that would lead me to act out, to seek that out. I mean, at some point it would just take over as a drive that would just literally take over. And it was a fix that I needed, almost like a drug. And but once I got it, I did it the second it came to an end. I mean, I felt like I was hit by a Mack truck with all that same shame and guilt and filth and all that. So I mean, it was not a good thing. It was it was something I dreaded. It definitely took a toll, especially early on. It didn't get any better with age. As you get older, you realize how out of control you are. I mean, even when I was 31, I came to terms with being a victim and all that, and I made the connections that, man, I mean, I went through the however many layers of anger and grieving and all that stuff, all the should have beens and could have beens that never were, due to the abuse. I mean, I came to realize that every single little decision I made in life, from a young boy all the way up to even to today, is tainted by the abuse and the subsequent issues that it left behind, all the fears and those drives and phobias and things inside me. Every decision was changed. I mean, even as a little kid, the abuse made me loathe school. I hated school. I hated being there. From early on. Being around all the other boys and all the girls too. I mean, those other kids mirrored back to me everything that I wasn't. And I hated that. So I just sat in those schools. I just zoned out and just took up space. And I didn't graduate. I left. I ended, it was in the blue collar world. I mean, some things I can't change. I mean, I can't change that. I'm nearly 50 years old. I'm looking to retire. I mean, I'm not going back to school. I just don't have it in me to try to, recap all that. But I'm in so much of a better place. I finally was able to break through and, rob the power those triggers had over me. I had when I felt that I was failing somehow, or I was not measuring up to some of these other men, and what used to trigger me into to act out. I mean, I've come to count my blessings, because, man, I've been blessed so much by God. I mean, for what I do have in life, that alone has stopped that. I mean, I got to realize that, hey, no matter what, I've come so far. I mean, I've been blessed so much, that there's no reason for that drive. And that really has made healing and wholeness that much more real to me. So, I mean, when I was 31, I did tell my wife, that all the stuff that went on as a kid and some subsequent acting out even after we were married. I mean, she stood by me. She's been a saint, a rock. You know, I told the family. I told my father. You know, I never heard from my cousin and my uncle or any of them because I stopped talking to them when I was 12. Once I started acting out with that friend, I stopped going over to my uncle's house for the sex from him, because I now had this other kid that was, readily available to me, and somebody who I can, act out with, control, but yeah, it's been a wild ride. But I came out okay. If this is, your life, you've been living this kind of thing too, if you're out there still stuck in the rut of acting out, wondering what's it all about, why you're doing it, and hating yourself for it, you can get down to those root issues and those causes and learn from them, and it robs the power from them, and once you start growing and feeling better, you start making, you break those connections to it, and you start making new connections, healthy connections, and healthy ways of thinking about things. I'll be honest, my Christian faith, my walk with God has helped me tremendously to work through this. I mean, to even forgive my uncle for what he's done, even if it's not so much for him, it is for him, but it's for me too, take that hate out of my heart, that weighed me down too, but you can get through it. You can have a successful, happy life after all this. I mean, I'll be honest, it takes work. It took me a good year and a half to feel okay, It was heavy at times. I mean, I cried, I was angry, I was, moody, but you can work through it, and so that's my story. Take from it what you want, leave the rest. But I do bid you peace, and good luck. Take care.